back in February about what we were going to talk about. So wanted to just check in on that. Looked like we were going to read the remainder of Crucial Conversations and talk about the 2 to 3 big takeaways. One would be about something that you can reflect on and apply to yourself, and one being about something you could apply to the work of the board. That was going to be one of them. And then we were going to look at a few questions. And I know that I had those prepared for the last time we got together, but we didn't get to those because we were talking about other things. And so I actually can bring those up on a slide that I had with me last time and show those. And then we were going to talk about, and I don't know if we'll have time for this, talk about coming up with goal recommendations for working together as a board for the rest of the year, but maybe we will. And then those goals should be about how you all function as a team. So what I would love to do first is just talk about if you read the rest of the book and just some 2 to 3 big takeaways. And if you can talk about maybe something that you apply to yourself as a person and something that you can apply to the rest of your board work, what you think about, what you thought about as you read it.
Do I participate in this?
Yes, please.
Then I'll go first to get us kicked off. I did read the rest of the book. The 2 things I chose, takeaways reflect on, apply to yourself. I liked the chapter because I think it's true, not just for me, but others, on clever stories. So how people create clever stories, and it's either, well, there's this problem here, but it's not my fault. Mm-hmm. There's this problem here today, but it's all Kristen's fault that she didn't show up. Or there's this problem here. There was nothing else I could have done. Well, there is something I could have done. I could have reminded Kristen yesterday, hey, we're on for tomorrow, right? So just that idea of, there's this conflict or something that's a problem that people tend to internalize and use one of those 3 things. And how can you turn those, what they call clever stories, into useful language. So that was the takeaway for me, or that whole subject on applying it to myself. Mm-hmm. Be able to use less clever stories and more useful stories in solving problems. And then the one, as far as applying to work amongst the board, the chapter 8 on how to listen when others are either upset or clam up. So to me, that made a lot of sense. There's often conversations in board meetings where it's best that for me to probably just listen, or if someone isn't just deciding they're shutting down and clamming up, what can I do to help them not feel like that is something they need to do? So those are my 2 takeaways. Mm-hmm.
That's great. Thank you.
One takeaway. And that is, whether it's 2 people or a group of people, you're not all going to agree on one thing. That doesn't matter because everybody is different. Everybody has their own thoughts about everything. What matters is that we're able to come together as a group and then figure out how we want to move forward as a group. Mm-hmm. No blame, no anything like that. Just lighten things up, asking questions, well, how does that feel for you? Or, what do you see that I could do to help this situation? Yeah.
Mine kind of is a little bit of like what Lisa said, but I think the thing that I just really realized, I think it applies to both of the takeaways, is that people do come onto the board with different perspectives. And so you might have people who have been in education for a long time, or was in education, like myself, for 15 years, I worked in the schools, and so I knew how schools worked, and I kind of knew how, at least high schools, and And then, you know, I've been on a lot of committees in the past and different things, so I bring a different perspective than everybody here, and just like that. So I think it's both personal that, you know, I need to realize that people have a different perspective. They're coming into these meetings and they're looking at things differently than I am. And so I just need to realize that, but also as a group, we need to realize that you know, someone might think that there's a crucial conversation, whereas myself, and I think we talked, Kathleen and I talked about this a few weeks ago, or a couple months ago, that, you know, in the 8 years, I've never had a what I consider a critical conversation in this meeting. Never.
It's crucial to us,
Crucial.
it would not be to someone else.
Never, not once. I mean, when you're out in the middle of the highway and you're discussing how to get somebody out of a car who's been mangled in the car in a wreck, that's a crucial conversation to me. You know, who's,
Definitely.
you know, maybe not gonna live.
Speaks
So,
really to.
so that's a different perspective. That's what I do.
So Mark, just a follow-up question. So after reading this book, and I think we talked a little bit about this last time, is your perspective that it doesn't reach the level of crucial to you until it gets to really like an emergency, or do you is that what you're like? I just want to
Well,
understand what
My
you're
crucial is
saying
different
about
than
that.
somebody else. My crucial is different than maybe somebody else's, and so I just
Okay.
realized that, I mean, what someone might think is a crucial conversation here is not really what my scale is for crucial. It's
Okay.
not like a big deal, you know?
Okay.
It's a big deal. It's not that big a deal. I shouldn't say that. It's not as crucial as things I've experienced in the past. And I need to remember that. That's for myself. I need to realize that and
Sure.
recognize that so that I just don't get frustrated when people think it's a you know, a crucial conversation when it's not that big of a deal. So, to me.
Mhm, mhm. Sure. So some calibration between expectations is expected. Great realization. Okay, great. Who else?
I think for me, it's, I try to do this, but again, not being consistent is separating facts from the story and really getting to the root of what the issue is, not because we are probably emotionally connected with an idea or a situation, but more finding the facts and addressing those as a group, coming to one voice collectively with the response for us as a board. So our job is should be more factual based, where we look at the evidence and make those decisions.
So database, evidence-based thinking. Yep. Who else hasn't gone yet?
My big one was the chapter that talked about establishing mutual respect. Attempting to make everyone feel heard and respected. I think that's something as a board we can work on. There can tend to be like some loud sighs and eye rolling and things like that. So I would like to make that one of, from me, my perspective, a goal of that. Establishing mutual respect, safe place, say what you want to say without the judgment piece coming.
So that's interesting, Kathleen, what you were just talking about is, and maybe there's more to it than this, but what you just mentioned is that respect piece, not even necessarily being about verbal, but nonverbal, right? Because we give a lot of nonverbal cues when we're listening to each other or interacting with each other too. And so that extends, and we talked about this when we were talking about the initial part before we read a lot of the crucial conversations, all that goes along with that, not just how we talk to each other. And see, I'm looking around trying to see. Andrea, did you go? Did everybody go?
No, but all of these things, I feel like were takeaways for me. And I don't really feel like I had any unique takeaways other than what's already been said.
Thank you. And I appreciate that everybody also tied this all into the work of the board and what, you know, your perspective and bringing your own flavor to that perspective, and then how you can tie that to the work of the board. I would like to, now I'm bringing up my old PowerPoint from November. let's see, am I able to, Bree, am I able to share?
Please, so you
Screen?
have a list you can share. Is it allowing you to?
Hang on. Second. Nope. I'm sending a request. See if you get it.
There you go.
Thank you. Okay. You should be seeing the right thing. You seeing the right thing?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So I think these were the questions that I sent along. These are the ones that we didn't get to last time. And so what I would like us to do is just we don't have to like spend a ton of time on all of these, but I find that it's helpful to really, I think this is where we can get to a couple of goals to set for professional development as an ongoing thing, like, you know, finishing out the year, going into next year, or going at least finishing out the year. But I like to start with like things that don't necessarily have anything to do with your work on the board, right? So if you could, and you may have prepared for these because I did send these in advance a long time ago. So what has been your most positive team experience? It could be at any point in your life. What has been your most positive team experience? Yeah, Lisa.
So I won't say that it's my most positive, but it is as far as what I can remember. Okay? And that is, I went to a meeting one time. And I went to a meeting, and what they did is there was two groups of people. And there was two groups of people, and what they did is they put 4 people at a table, 2 from this group and 2 from group B. They gave us a worksheet, and we had to figure out, first we had to figure out how did we feel? So our topic was homelessness, okay? And we had to figure out different criteria and what would we do in this situation. The other people did the same thing, and then we all came together, and it was a definite group A and a definite group B. And when we came together, it was beautiful. I mean, it was like everything was out the door, and we just got down to business and started thinking about, you know, okay, well, what's right for this perspective and what is right for this and how can we help with that? And it was literally beautiful.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. What is a specific aspect that made that so good?
It is because the groups A and B were 2 completely different groups. So, the expectation would be that there would be some kind of confrontation with that, okay? But there wasn't. There was none. So I think that's what I appreciated the most, was that out of all these people, I didn't hear of anybody that had any difficulties or anything like that. But out of all these different groups, I'd say there was at least 8 of them that people were coming together for the good of somebody else.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So common ground. And then kind of a pleasant surprise, as there was no confrontation, that there was, you know, it was built on the respect, and the relationship was built on this common ground.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Great. Okay.
And that goes
common purpose.
Pardon me?
A common purpose too, is what I'm understanding or hearing you say.
Yes.
Okay. Great. Who else?
I could go, I guess. I actually thought this was one that it was to deal with the board, but I mean, I can think of lots of being in athletics and different things. I think I had lots of top positive team experiences, but I think overall, being a part of an organization that has paid and volunteer staff, emergency services, where, you know, especially like 20 years ago, and even now, but more so back when we had more responders from home. And so you would get a call and you'd have people show up, some from the station, some from 2 or 3 different houses, possibly, to a call, and they're coming from all different walks of life. And the commonality, like you talked about, one goal is to help people. And so I think it just was great to see you'd had people who were, you know, welders, people who had PhDs in education, PhDs in other degrees, and you had people who were just maybe drove a truck or whatever, and then for a living, but then they come together to help, you know, this person either on a medical call or, you know, help someone in a fire or a motor vehicle accident, that type of stuff. So I think I had lots of positive team experiences over the last 27 years, and I couldn't name just one, so, but it was just that the paid volunteer, there was no difference, there still isn't even now really, and it's just that they were coming from all walks of life, they left their families, they left whatever they were doing to go help other people. It was a great experience, great career.
So again, more of that common goal. I'm also hearing like, maybe, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, Mark, but like, there's some sacrifice in there. You were talking about like people leaving their families. Some people are unpaid and making some sacrifice in order to contribute to a greater common good.
Definitely, yeah.
Who else?
I don't wanna follow up after Mark, mine's lame after that, but.
No, none of them are lame.
I know with college basketball, like common goal, working as a team, you're helping them with grades so that they're eligible to play, they're helping you after hours working on your jump shot, like just that you travel the country together, trying to get your college paid for, like that camaraderie is hard to find.
I think, I mean, we always hear sports ones, and I think sports is huge, right? I mean, like, I think that is frequently one of the ones that is reported as the most positive team experience because of all of those things you mentioned, Kathleen, about like, sometimes it's the first time people really feel like they're in a group with a really strong common team goal and that they can have that sense of camaraderie. Traveling together is a huge thing. I mean, you learn a lot about people when you're traveling with them, and all of those senses, you build skills. Like, you know, I mean, like you have to learn how to get along. You're in close-knit environments, and you know, and also there's rivalry you have to manage. So I mean, I think that's really valid as one of those. I mean, that's why that pops up so frequently, is because of all of those really intense things that happen all at once. Thank you for sharing that. Who's next?
Leadership, time management.
Yeah. Andrea, Barbara, Gary. I'm gonna ask everybody to answer this one, and not everybody has to answer the rest of them.
I'll use a cop out. Long time ago, I'll probably use the example of the military, simply because, you know, you think this group's diverse, that's really diverse, right? Whether race, ethnicity, religion, I was a part of a group that 40 of us went in together and we stayed together for 4 years. So we went, whether it was overseas or wherever, I was with the same 40 people that went to basic training, but then deployed to different places. And just the, like, as far, you know, different folks as you can imagine make up that 40 people. And you're put in situations where, you know, you haven't slept in a bed in 4 weeks and you're eating MREs and it's cold or it's hot, or and you need to look out for other people. And just obviously the structure of the military and the way they do things lends itself to that. There's only one way. Everybody's got to be, you know, oaring the boat the same direction. But it's just a unique experience that really nothing in civilian life compares to that level of organization and, you know, movement towards one common, you know, we're one unit, a team, so.
Yep. Yeah, a lot of theme here, common goal. This is, you know, like, I mean, a little bit like, you know, I'm not going to completely liken the two, but like really tight knit community, really focused on, I mean, it's, you know, I mean, there's a lot of commonality with what Kathleen just shared, you know, with like, you've got a single goal, everybody's kind of got to do the same thing the same way. And and, you know, with a lot of, I mean, I'm hearing like a lot of structure, and I'm thinking like there's a lot of commonality with the board too. There's a lot of rules that surround the board, and you got to kind of do things in one way. But the important thing here, as you're all hearing, is that like having common purpose, common goal, is what you're all saying as well. Barbara, Andrew?
I think for me, my background is in contact center and customer service, and working in the cruise industry, there are so many times when we have disaster that we have to come together to respond to. Being able to get your group or your team comfortable with the message that needs to be relayed to the customer. We're calling customers who are looking to take their first cruise that they've saved for how long, and telling them, oh, we are canceling the cruise, or, you know, changing the date. Now they have to figure out vacation, or they're on the cruise and need to get off for whatever the reason is. But being able to put that message out there so this diverse group of people with different background can relay the message with empathy and work with the disgruntled, or, you know, a customer who is just not willing to accept any form of compensation, being able to support them through that, I think was always been an area that I work in, and just beautiful to see at the end of that event that we, you know, how relief and how rewarding our team feels because they were able to help. Maybe sometimes they can only help a handful of people, but that was a reward for them to say, hey, we did good, we did our best, and at the end of the day, you know, we took care of the problem and offer some solutions. So again, it's working together, being able to deliver the message, the intent, and responding with empathy, and knowing that you're not gonna please everyone, but the message still needs to be delivered.
I'm also hearing, Barbara, in your story that I've heard from others too, as this is also becoming a theme, that like this is a group of really diverse people that are coming together to create that common goal too. So you've got a lot of people with, you know, from all areas, all different backgrounds, all different whatever. I mean, all different people, maybe different perspectives on things, coming together to solve a common problem, coming together to address a common issue, and to serve a common purpose. And I've heard that a couple of times too, and that's kind of becoming a theme as well. Andrea?
So I've had good experiences, you know, in my professional career working as teams, but you know, the way that I learned to learn how to be part of a team was when I was an adolescent and on the swim team. And you know, I learned that you have to be dedicated, and you know, people depend on you to give 110% when, and I think that has carried me through. And I mean, I'm not perfect at being a team member, but I feel like I would be a lot worse at being a team member if I had not had that experience.
Yeah. Yep. So all of you, as you heard, kind of shared this similar thing. And I'm wondering, you know, if this is the kind of thing that, you know, that with your reflections on the book that we can take toward a goal that you can all work toward. I'm going to ask this question pretty quickly. And not everybody has to answer this. These next questions, not everybody has to answer. So I'll move through these a little more quickly. What's the best thing about being on the board?
What I put down when we were supposed to do this was seeing the successes of our students and staff, and just how hard kids work at different things, and I really recognize that it wasn't our kids, but it was high school kids this weekend, and there was a girl from, I can't remember what team, I think she was from Cook County or something like that, that during warm-up, she tweaked her knee. And, I mean, I don't know the situation, it sounded like maybe she did the same thing to her other knee last year, but she'd worked so hard to get to, the final 8 in the state, and it was potentially she wasn't going to play. And I don't know if she was a senior, I don't know what year she was, but still, it's just that, the team depended on her probably, and she just had that goal, and I think that's the thing, that they work so hard to get and do certain things, and I think that for me, that's the best thing. I mean, when we go to athletic events or go to choir or band or anything like that, or just kids that are great academically, I think that's for me is the best thing that keeps me coming back, after 7 years or whatever, so.
Great. Anybody else want to share on that one?
Simple, I said the league pass.
The board, what Lisa was mentioning is that it's the one perk of being on the board. They get a league pass to get into athletic events free.
Yep, I'm familiar with that.
Okay.
I always said that my only agenda was to get a soft seat in the front row at the graduation. That was my only agenda of getting on the board, getting the soft seat for graduation.
That's right.
Yeah,
What
and
is-
Mark,
Oh, go ahead.
that's one of the things that is the best thing about being on our board is being able to sit up front at graduation and see all these shining young people being launched out into the world. And I mean, I tear up every time pomp and circumstance it starts to play.
Yeah.
That's a good reward.
As someone who coached some of those kids in the past, it's good seeing some of them heading out too.
Yeah. Last year I got to shake 800 kids' hands. Convinced I was gonna get sick. But what is the most challenging thing about being on the board?
I'll go, since I wrote this stuff down before. I said the influence that the vocal minority has on the community, including the district staff and students. And so I think that's the biggest thing. There's and it's something that the board has to deal with also, because, there might be 20 or 30 people who are really vocal in the community about certain things, but there's more than 20 or 30 people in the district that aren't vocal about that and haven't relayed anything negative about certain things that are going on. So just remembering that there's a silent majority out there somewhere too.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Anything else?
I would say that this board here is probably the most different that I've been in a group setting. So I would say the most challenging thing for me with this board is that we don't, in my opinion, have a real open sense of communication. It's like, come, sit down, do what you need to do and go. And I'm more of a warm, feely, touchy person.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. How would that, so I'm gonna come back to that when we talk about goals, because there are some limitations to how we do that, but we can talk about that. Let me skip to the last question before I come back to the fourth question. How does communication between you all, speed or slow, how you process things, how you process your work or your progress? So how does communication as a board, speed or slow, the way that you move, the way that you work? Yeah, Lisa.
So with me, in your communication abilities, if you're talking and there is communication going on, that means there's just that much more knowledge that everybody has on the same topic, okay? When everybody's on the same page and everybody understands the same, not that they have to agree, but they at least understand how we're going to move forward, then the process can actually go very quickly. But when there is a lack of communication, now you have the fumbling, people really don't know where are they going, what are they doing? The communication is not there, and the process is so much slower because you have so much lag time.
Mhm. What do you mean when you say communication?
Being able to talk to people.
Okay,
So whether it's the verbal or nonverbal, but
Mhm.
being able to converse with one person or many people.
okay. Okay. Anybody else have an answer to that one?
I don't understand what Lisa just said. That's my communication. I don't understand what you said.
That's, I believe that, so. Do you want me
Yeah, I
to?
do feel like, there are definitely communication challenges, that slow down our process.
Uh-huh.
Um, I I've been trying to, approach things from different perspectives and, and I do feel like this year is better than last year, but it still is not, it still is frustrating sometimes.
Okay. Okay. I'm gonna ask more about that in just a second. Does anybody else have anything they want to weigh in on that piece? Okay.
I think it kind of sums up the lack of communication.
Yeah, right.
That whole thing right there.
So I'm gonna hold on to that communication piece because as we get to like, how might you set a goal, I'm gonna make a suggestion. But let me ask you first, is there a goal that you are all working toward? And here's what I don't want. I don't want a district goal answer. Like I don't want 100% graduation. Is there a goal that you as a board are all working toward?
Well, we did this individually, so they could be 5 different individual
That's
goals.
true. That's true. But what did you each think? What did you each say?
Essentially what
What I put down was,
a goal we are all working toward.
what I put down was balancing what is required of us to do as a board and educating our constituents why it is in our best interest to comply.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay. And that is a board related goal. Yep. That's exactly what the kind of thing I was thinking of, Mark.
Well, I thought you were gonna say it was the kind of thing you didn't want. But.
No, that's the kind of thing. That's the kind of thing. This is like the work of the board. This is something that you are all working on.
I thought one of the goals were to be able to have open and honest dialogue.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Good. Anything else anybody wants to share? Open and honest dialogue.
I would second that.
Mm-hmm. So what I would like you to do, and is set for yourselves one. So you've got an idea of something that you are all working toward. Do you have anything that is adopted for, well, I'm guessing not. So you had committed to doing some professional development that on these short work sessions. One thing that I would recommend for this year and would be a good culture building onboarding tool for anybody who might come onto the board after you as boards turn over, different iterations of the board come on, is communication protocols. And I don't remember, do you have a board operating agreement?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So what I would recommend are are two things. I would recommend revisiting the board operating, when did you last revisit the board operating agreement?
Every August in the retreat.
Every August.
Well,
What
we
do you
talked-
do to
Talk
revisit?
about during the year, I mean, at one point also, but yeah.
Okay. How do you revisit it? Do you look at it and do you substantially revise it? Do you look at it and kind of adopt it again? Like, how do you use it?
I don't recall, I think every year there's probably been small tweaks or edits or clarifications. It's
Okay.
definitely not something we spend hours and hours on.
Sure.
Sometimes if we have new board members, we might spend a little more time. If it's been the same board for several years, anything not working, it could be a 5-minute conversation.
Sure. Okay. So the thing about when a board talks about communication, and I say this like this is anybody talking about communication, right? This is in your personal life, this is in board life, this is in work life. And maybe I said this to you in one of the earlier things, but I say this a lot. When a person or a group tells me they have a communication problem, it is not a communication problem. Communication is a proxy for trust. And communication is it's kind of like the word community engagement. Like it can mean, it's a squishy word, it can mean just about anything, which is, Lisa, why I said, what do you mean by communication, right? Because that can mean very different things to anybody, right? And so because when I think of communication, I'm like, do you mean my words? Do you mean that you like that we should be communicating more verbally, by text, by email? Is this the amount of information I give you? Is this about the amount of time we spend together or actually conversing? You know, like you have to figure out with your superintendent how often that kind of thing happens individually with each other. What does that look like in board meetings? Like, what does a board meeting look like? How often do you do work sessions? What do those work sessions look like? Like, what does communication mean? And so we often will put something together called communication protocols. And those can look like anything. When I do them, I usually start with expectations of like, if there is a crisis, how would the superintendent let you know? Because you can't have like 5 different expectations of, you know, I want a text, I want an email, I want a phone call. Gary couldn't possibly get all of that to you if there was a crisis and he needed to be on the ground. But these kinds of things can also, and sometimes very deeply, morph into when we say communication and we struggle with that, or we don't want to struggle with that, what do we actually mean by that? How do we define communication? So if our board wants to focus on communication, let's define that first, or let's define the different iterations that comes with. So if that means like the way we talk in a meeting, the subjects that we cover in a meeting, the big size or whatever during a meeting, if that's not in our board operating agreement, let's define communication. If we mean like we're about talking outside of a meeting, obviously we know we cannot do that in a quorum, but what does that mean? Does it mean calling more work sessions? If you need them to discuss an issue deeply and in a more informal way, like, is that what we mean by communication? Like, what do you as a group of individuals come together and mean by communication? And does that involve other people? And so I would put together, and I can always like email you and give you like, here are some common things that I think that you should do when you put it together. Like here's like a structure. I'd be happy to send something to you that maybe you would want to do at your, retreat or before that, maybe before the end of the year, to put together what that looks like. Because if you are saying, we need to work on communication, I wonder if you could, as a group, agree on what that means. And then how do you go about doing that? Like, what is your plan for doing that? and then, you know, and then talk about what that is, because the most of the time that you are together is in a board meeting. So what does that look like to have positive communication in a board meeting? How does that sound for a goal, like for the rest of the year?
Yeah.
What was that?
I would think that, you know, in case there is some turnover, that it would be revisited like at the retreat and maybe, you know, dig a little deeper into it. I mean, it doesn't have to be a half day, but at least for a couple hours on that part of it. I think that would, maybe along with the operating agreement as, you know, at the same time, just so that everybody who is on the board at the time after July, you know, July 1, is in the same page, on the same page.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I would do this if you were going to do it now. I would, you know, at least bring it up at your summer retreat after your election. I don't know who's running. I don't know if anybody is dropping off. Like, I don't know what turnover you either expect or don't. But it would be good, you know, if you're going to do it now, bring it up then also, or if you're going to wait, do it then. But you could spend some time on this and really dig into the relationship aspect of communication, and that includes your superintendent. Right? That is you as individuals and your superintendent. And like I said, if you want like a template or something, I can certainly give you something to start out your conversation on that.
So if I can, I'm gonna say yes, please on that.
You would say what?
Yes, please on that template.
Yep. I will get Gary something that he can get to you all.
Thank you.
And I think if you work on that, that would be a good start, because you can get a lot accomplished, and you can really, you know, and with the book that you just read, like hopefully like some of those conversation pieces and ways to have conversations like resonated with you, and you can use those kinds of conversations when you talk about something that is focused and that that you may not agree on. And looking at, what do I want for myself? What do I want for this group? What do I want for this relationship when you talk about things that are tough or that you don't agree with? So I will get that for you. I know I'm running out of time here. Anything else? Any other questions that you have? I know, so here's what I'm going to do before I log off. Like I said, this has literally never happened to me before. I'm going to make sure, and I know that I just confirmed this, the next time I'm with you is April 14th for the evaluation piece. I see a thumbs up back there. And we've got the targeted feedback survey out. Like, everything's in process. Okay. Is there any follow-up or anything that you would like from me besides that template?
No, I think that, I mean, from my perspective, I think that's good. I think it will be helpful. I think it is a good point, you know, if Andrea says communication, it's different than what Lisa says and what Mark, you know, some people on the board might want good communication means we're having short board meetings and no work session because all the communication's happening. For somebody else, it means, you know, more dialogue in board meetings, more work sessions. So I think having that conversation and finding out, here's the things we do currently, and how can we make it better from the 5 people that are on the board collectively, what do they see is important.
So what is the April 14th date?
April 14th is
Standalone meeting.
standalone executive session, superintendent evaluation. Week before.
I just want to make sure, I didn't have it on my calendar, but I just want to make sure because it wasn't before our board meeting, so.
Yeah, no, standalone, just so it happens before April 15th.
Yeah. Okay. Again, I so apologize. Don't know how it happened. Thank you for your grace. And I'm really glad we got to chat. I will leave you to your meeting and we'll follow up with that template. Thank you all very much, and I will see you in a month.
Thank you.
Right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
What time is this thing on?
In my Friday update email this week, I'll include everything about the 2 meetings in April, the executive session and the regular in both times.
I heard you already worked with Court and Barbara, so you can make the call when this one will right into it.
It's not good, but I'll wait. It's fine. No, really. Correct. This way.
I will. It kicked me out. Sorry, kicked me out of the club.
To order, it is now 6:31. We have a shared vision in the Fern Ridge School District, provide excellence for every student so that each will reach their greatest potential. Thank you to the members of the public who have joined us. As a reminder, school board meetings and work sessions or meetings of the board held in public, providing an opportunity to observe the board's discussion and actions. In an effort to conduct official board business, we ask that the audience be respectful and refrain from questions, comments, and unnecessary noise while the board conducts the meeting. There is an opportunity for a citizen comment tonight, and the board looks forward to hearing from those who have signed up. I will share some reminders when we get to that portion of the meeting. Also, please note that all board meetings are live streamed and posted on the school board area on the website. And we'll start with Ms. Oliver Johnson for a citizenship award.
Thank you guys. We have our Citizen of the Month Award winner student here. This is Arabelle. And when we did our nominations this year, we had 3 different teachers nominate Arabelle. And then when we did the votes for the whole staff, she was the clear overwhelming favorite. Ran away with it pretty much. So wanted to say a couple of things about her. And this was the first time I've ever sent out, tell me things to say about Arabelle Kendrick, and people were like, right there with the comments. I didn't have to chase them down, I didn't have to remind them, I didn't have to go back. Everybody wanted to talk about her in a very positive, kind, nice way. So, and actually kind is a thread that goes through these comments. So from Danielle Moore, our instructional assistant who supervises the lunch, Arabelle is very kind and respectful. When a peer was on crutches, she would carry their supplies and hold the door for them daily. In addition to her being empathetic and caring, she works very hard academically. From Mrs. Lloyd, the language arts teacher, Arabelle works diligently to produce her personal best work. She thinks critically about topics she is presented with, asks clarifying questions, and stays on top of her work. But Mrs. Honstein, the PE teacher, Arabelle is hardworking, respectful, kind, curious, and creative. Starting at a new school mid-year is tough, but with a freshly broken arm too. Arabelle handles everything in stride. She is observant and inquisitive, which helps her learn our systems, and she has a genuine love for learning. Her kindness and respect are what sets her apart from other awesome students. She looks out for peers, speaks up and supports them, and is the first to invite someone to participate. Shortly after she joined us, a peer was injured and couldn't attend PE. Arabelle offered to help her and to show her how to do the alternate assignment for PE. She kept her company, helped her walk her through her peers, and became her friend. Arabelle is just a cool person to be around and makes whatever she is better. From Mr. Franzi, our social studies teacher, Arabelle is extremely kind and helpful to everyone around her in class. She is always participating and contributing to class discussions and has a fantastic attitude. It is a pleasure, to get to teach Arabelle. From Mrs. Babcock, praise just continues. Arabelle is kind and considerate to her peers, consistently demonstrating respect towards both her classmates and adults. She brings a positive energy to every interaction and is a joy to be around. She approaches challenges with determination and always puts forth her best effort. She consistently goes out of her way to help others whenever she sees the need. But Mrs. Shelby Humphrey, our school secretary, she is respectful and kind to me and other students as well. She does not hesitate to help out when she sees someone who needs it. And then finally, for Mrs. Russell, our media assistant, she is always pleasant, has very good manners, is very kind, is a good friend, and always does the right thing. So pretty powerful words that you said about Arabelle. Congratulations. What I like about them the most is, yes, you're a good student. Yes, you do a great job in your classrooms. Yes, you try really hard. But what's consistent through here is how kind you are. And that's really important. Because in this world, to quote the saying, in this world you can be anything you want to be, but being kind is so there, right? I mean, in my heart, really deeply, for you to be kind and a great worker and smart and helpful and everything else, just tells us we're really lucky to have you at our school and in our district. So congratulations on being our citizen of the month. You know me. Just say that out. Yep, just one now.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you for being such a wonderful human being.
And you don't have to stay for the whole meeting.
Congratulations again, Arabelle.
Good job.
All right, so we will move on to our West Lane Charter School curriculum change request. Is Dorsey?
Darcy's here.
Dorsey's here? Hi.
I think you have all the background you need. They're changing platforms, by contract, or the Fern Board needs to approve, when this occurs. I had one question of Darcy, she answered it. I've sent you the information, last week, so, I don't know if you have anything to add, or if you have questions of Wesleyan Tech, Darcy's here.
Questions? Thank you. All good? Lisa? No? All right. Can we get a motion to approve? Or motion?
I'll move to approve the curriculum change request from West Lane Charter School.
Also good.
We have a motion and a second, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, we have 5-0.
That was easy.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, we have our approval of our minutes.
Oh, wait, you guys do have to sit. Sit there.
Can we have a motion on the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the February 24th work session and regular session minutes.
Also good.
We have a motion and a second, any discussion on that? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We have 5-0. All right, we're moving on to our business office manager.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
All right. Okay, this is our March 1st enrollment report. As of March 1st, our in-district enrollment was at 1,297 students, which is 13 over our budgeted numbers and 8 more than last month. At the elementary level, we are up by 6 students from our original projections. At the middle school, we are up by 27. At the high school, we are down by 20. We also have 7 more out of district placements than in our projected budget. And both elementary schools is sitting at an average class size of 23. Does the board have any questions on the enrollment report?
I have a question on, how would it be for us to be able to see, what the average class sizes are in the middle school and high school?
I can get you that.
Yeah, we can get that.
Thank you.
Uh-huh. And I do have a couple more items on the agenda. Okay, so this is our general fund revenue and expense report. As of February 28th, we have received 80% of our budgeted revenue. We were at 87% last year, but like I said, we had received some large timber revenue by this time, so that's skewing it some. We have spent 52% of our operating expenditures. Last year, we were at 53%. You can see down at the bottom, our transfers from general fund into special revenue took place. That's that $860,000 at the bottom. And then I just wanted to let you know that this is our triple pay month for our licensed staff. So expenses will go up quite a bit next month on the report. Does anyone have questions on the general fund revenue and expense report?
Hearing none, no,
Okay,
we need board action on that. Can we have a motion on this?
I move that we accept the revenue and expenditure report for February, or as of February 28th.
Have a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second that.
We have a motion and second, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, with 5-0. So the next one yours, Mona?
yes, it is. So this is a resolution. Sometimes it's necessary after a budget is adopted to transfer appropriations from one category to another, but within the same fund. And this is allowed to do so by passing a resolution for transfer of appropriations, which is what's presented on the board there. A transfer of appropriation involves a decrease in one existing appropriation and a corresponding increase in another existing appropriation with no net change. So we're not requesting more to be budgeted. We're just essentially moving the budget around. In this case, the reason it's needed is because our food service fund is seeing a lot more participation this year. So the expenses are higher than they have been in the past, as well as we had to purchase some food service equipment. So those were unanticipated expenses in the original budget as well. So I basically looked for some budgeted expenditures in the 200 fund that were not being utilized, and I found those in ESSER. We had a lot of budget in our ESSER that ended up not being used either because we ended up spending it in the prior year, or it just wasn't necessary. So that's what this is for. And then it'll just transfer the appropriations from one function to another.
So Quanah,
Yeah.
didn't ESSER funds have to be expended before now?
Yeah, they had to be spent by September 30th, but they're still in our budget document. So
Right, okay.
yeah, this
All right.
amount that I'm moving, it never was spent. So it was in the budget built into it, but we never needed it.
Am I understanding this right? So, we had these monies from ESSER fund. It was supposed to be used by September 30th. We have it in the budget, but was it actually used? Is this just paperwork only?
Yeah, so for example, if I might have budgeted, let's say $1 million in ESSER this year. And when I built the budget, I had to build it, in April, so really far in advance. Well, we may have spent part of that $1 million last year, but I still had to have it budgeted this year in case those expenses didn't go through in the prior year. Otherwise, we couldn't have spent the funds. So those are basically funds that were already spent, but they were budgeted in case they didn't get spent in the prior year.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay.
And one other thing is that, on this paper, is it showing us where it came from and where it's going to?
Yes, so it's moving from the 2,000 support services, the 334,722.
Right.
And then it's going into the 3,000 enterprise and community services, because that's where our food service fund is.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
All right, this required board action. Are we still talking? We good?
We're good.
No, I'm sorry, I wasn't calling you out. I'm just making sure I'm not cutting you off.
I was just asking which one of us wanted to make a motion.
Oh, well, why don't you make a motion?
Have fun.
Okay, I make a motion that we pass resolution 24-25/10.
Lisa will second, okay. Motion and a second. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. We have 5-0. All right, I think the next one is still yours, Connor.
It's not really mine, but I am more than happy
I'll
to
talk
present
about
it.
Okay.
So this is typically we had our first reading last month, second month you'll adopt this. And so hopefully we're ready to adopt. The two things I wanted to mention is there could be, what is this, March? I would guess maybe in May, there's a potential for me to come back with some tweaks to this. So some of those tweaks may come out of bargaining. There might not be any, but I want to get that on your radar. The second one is that if you notice in November, this year, for example, Veterans Day fell on a Monday. That makes it easy. It's a 3-day weekend and then the school week starts. In 2025, Veterans Day is on the 11th. So what that looks like is kids come to school Monday, no school Tuesday, come back to school Wednesday. So I kind of caught this late. So I'm gonna wait till bargaining's over, and then I'll probably talk with the calendar committee. And I might make a suggestion that, for example, the October 10th work sample day maybe gets moved to November 10th, which would make October 10th a school day, full day week. And then that would really be a 4-day weekend for kids, for teachers. They come to work Monday, and then Tuesday be a holiday. So I hope you adopt the calendar, but just keep on your radar. I might come back for a couple of edits at the May board meeting.
I don't know if it's just our view, but there's only 28 days in November. And 27 in February.
Yeah.
November right in the middle.
There's no weekends.
there's no
It's just
weekends
Monday
on
through
it.
Friday.
Oh, right, there we go. That's what it is.
Yeah,
I was thinking there's more than that.
yeah, we just only Monday through Friday. So.
I'll move to adopt the calendar for 25-26.
We have a motion.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Lisa?
I just am wondering, isn't one of the days in October a statewide?
There is a statewide in-service day typically for age. That's just been a non-contract day for teachers, so it's not a,
Okay.
it's not a day.
I'm done, we can vote.
All right. Can we have a vote, please? All in favor?
I
5-0. All right, we're on to Billy for our reports.
I did print these for you, and you probably get them in print, but I know some of you like to look at it. Thank you. I figured you guys wouldn't mind sharing. Okay, so hello, Billy Perrier. Most of you know me. I'm the principal at Elmira Elementary School, and I love a good theme. So when I figured that we were gonna be here on St. Patty's Day, I went with, how are we lucky to be Elmira Eagles? And actually, the second grade teacher at Elmira read through it, and he was like, there's not even an eagle on it, because usually that's my theme, but I had to go green, so. Okay, so, and of course, I also had to add our pillars, which are relationships, rigor, and relevance, so I combined the two. So we are lucky for relationships. Obviously, that's a really big part of having a well-ran school is your relationships with your students and with each other. A little overview of our school. We have 267 students, 22 students per class size. It's gone up. That was from the OD report card from last year, so. We have 20 certified employees, 22 classified employees. We have general education classrooms, and we have 2 Bridges classrooms, which I think is really unique for our school. So basically that's K-5 students that have the highest needs in our district. So that's both Anita and Elmira students. We have 2 teachers and 6 classified folks that run those rooms, and they're really, really amazing rooms. So I think it's something unique about our school. Our special education classroom, Title I support, PE every day, full-time counselor, behavior specialist, and speech and language services. We have 20 to 30 minutes of SEL, social emotional learning, built into our schedule. And this year we started weekly morning meetings as a school, which has been very successful. The students and staff really look forward to that. We recite the Pledge of Allegiance. We have a school chant that we've created together. It promotes the social emotional learning and just camaraderie as a whole. And again, I think everyone looks forward to it. It's something we'll continue doing. That is a picture. It's a really tiny picture, but that was, I think, our second school-wide morning meeting. And if you can see, there's an eagle in there. So I dressed up as the eagle that day, which was a real hoot. So that's just one way that we build relationships at Elmira. We are lucky for rigor. So obviously learning is our objective. That's what we do. This is just a kind of a long list of some things that we're really focused on this year. I'll highlight some of the kind of the newer ones. So kindergarten intervention. So we did this probably, Mary, 7 years ago. And we decided to implement it again this year, which is making sure that every single one of our kindergartners is served in an intervention. So an intervention is specialized learning to meet their needs. And we do this in reading for every single kindergartner. It takes quite a bit of manpower, but our goal is that we're going to pour our resources into these kiddos so that they can get what they need to be academically successful. We also implemented win time this year, which Vanita's been doing for quite a while. Basically, that is what I need. So a half an hour built into their schedule where they are getting specialized education for them. Of course, we call it equal time, but it is what I need. The STAR assessment, I know Ms. Marshall has talked a lot about that. That's our new assessment program that we have in place, and we are all learning it, but we are also enjoying it. So it's been really exciting to learn the new system. Letters training, Ms. Marshall has also talked about that. I actually had the honor of going through letters training, and I can say it's probably one of the best professional developments I've ever been through. We've had our K2 teachers have already completed it, and we have 3 more teachers starting it. So that's really an honor that the district has provided that opportunity. Basically, it is using the science of reading to teach teachers how to teach reading. So, you know, you go through teaching school and they don't really teach you that part. So teaching kids how to learn to read is something that the teachers are eager to learn, and letters training has really provided that. Professional learning communities has continued in our district. We've been doing that for quite a while, and it goes really strong. So that's where K-5 teachers, both Benita and Elmira, come together. We collaborate, we look at data, and we make decisions based on that data. We're also participating in Oregon RTI, which I know Ms. Marshall has also talked about. So Oregon response to instruction and interventions, and we're learning lots of new things. Last year, we focused a lot on tier 1, which is kind of the greater good, right? And this year we've dove a little bit more into the tier 2, and eventually we'll hit tier 3, which is really looking at those students that have some higher needs. Our school has really focused on small group reading instruction this year. As a whole, we've sort of decided to dedicate ourselves to that time. Usually that time is 30 to 60 minutes, depending on the classroom and the grade level. But we came up with some agreements at the beginning of the year, and we continue to check in on those. So the pictures shown are kind of a lot of that work. You'll see at the top left, that's actually Mr. Don, who's here tonight, and he is doing STAR assessment on the computer, which is great. We didn't have the ability to do it on a computer with our old program, so it's been nice having that option. The Elmira Able Shine poster, again, just agreement. So you'll see those posters throughout our school. That's our expectations for how students behave during a learning time. The middle picture is Ms. Skenzik's small group lesson plans. So again, we all agreed we need lesson plans. We need to be able to have, you know, some common agreements around what we're doing during that really important 30 minutes of their day. And then the bottom picture is just kiddos learning, which is what we love. This is some data. So this is the Oregon OBE report card. You know, there's a ton of work that still needs to be done. We are below grade, or we are below the state average. But what I really want you to see is the arrows are going up. So a year ago when I stepped into this position, that was my goal. I wanted every single arrow on this page to be going up, and they are. We have some larger growth with the 9%, and then we have some smaller growth, but everything is going in the direction that we want it to go. We have some systems put in place that we are using to promote academic growth. data teams, which meet quarterly to discuss student learning. We have core review meetings, which are starting up very soon. And again, that's looking at that tier 1. So how we're giving instruction to the greater good. We also started student support teams, which are SST meetings. Again, they did that, you know, a decade ago, but we started them up again. And that's where we're focused on students' behavioral and social needs. So we have kind of these different systems in place where we're trying to promote academic growth. So lots of great systems put in place. I think with a lot of dedication and teamwork, we're going to continue to see those arrows go up and we're going to get where we want to go. Okay, let's see, we've got a little more data here. So the top 2 are STAR data, that's that new assessment program. The left one is CBMs, which is assessing students based on words per minute or sounds per minute. And you always want to see the green grow. So and this is looking at K-5 as a whole, which I love that STAR data does this. We can look at our kiddos as a group. And we had an 11% growth, which is great. The other one is STAR reading assessment in general, and that looks at a variety of reading components. So knowing their sounds, knowing phonemic awareness, etc. And again, we had growth, so you can see that that green is getting bigger. The bottom 2 pictures are professional development within our building. I talked a little bit about that letters training. The great part about that is those teachers came back and they taught the other teachers who hadn't had that opportunity. So you can see that they were playing games and having fun. Games are always risky in our building because we're highly competitive, but it worked out fine. Okay, we are looking for relevance. So giving meaning to our learning. Just make sure I'm on the right page here. Start talking. So a couple of programs that we have in place at Elmira. Art and music programs. So we have ukulele, which is, we've already had K1, or no, excuse me, we've had 2-3. We start K1 next month, and then we'll go to the final grades. We also have had choir, which has been focused on 3 through 5, and the bottom picture is actually our 3 through 5 choir students performing at Elmira High School, which was really fun because most of them had never been on stage. And we have just started choir K5. So we have choir once a week, and everybody loves it. It's been really great. We're going to start Beats in Motion, which Miss Herbert is going to do. We got the Oregon Country Fair grant, thanks to Miss Jones and Miss Johnson and other people working really hard on that. And basically that's our PE teacher is going to be doing like a drumming dance situation. It's going to be really fun. We're all looking forward to it. Leadership and responsibilities. So we have school jobs. This is the first year we've done that. We have Eagle Leaders, which is a group of 4th and 5th graders, recycling crew, lunch crew, flag helper. So just those little things that give kids kind of, you know, meaning to be at school. Character and community development. We have a word of the month. This word of the month is responsibility, which that poster is really awesome because we have a poster for every month and the Eagle Leaders actually create those posters. So they think of the words, they pick out the graphics, and they come up with all of that themselves. Willamette Restoration Project, which is growing and learning about native plants. 4-H just happened. We just had our chicks hatched and they are now free into the world. Not the schools, the world. Literacy and enrichment programs. OBOB, they got into the final group of 8 this weekend, which was thrilling. They are the Serpents. They did a great job, really proud of them. Smart Reading up and running, and after school enrichment program, which Mrs. Jones and Miss Symington just completed, which was incredible. My daughter was lucky enough to be a part of that, and it was really successful after school enrichment program. These are just fun facts about our school. We have our own Google site that we use to communicate. You don't have to click on it if you don't want. It's kind of cool looking. I think it's cool. But we use it to communicate. So a lot of schools have like a Monday memo or something like that. I try to do something weekly. You'll also see we have our resources and then professional development. So I like to keep all of that up to date the best I can. And sometimes I have funny stuff too. We've ran 5,682 miles so far in PE. We have 11 kids that have made it to the marathon club with over 26.2 miles. Our top boy is Dax with 38 miles, and our top girl is Lark, who's also here tonight with 30 miles. Mr. Franklin's class has the most miles with 575. We also have impossible shots, so those little contraptions in the middle Miss Herbert made, and the kids have to throw the ball and get it right on the top of the tube. And we've had 8,760 impossible shot attempts. We've made 80 this year, which is actually a really high number.
Yeah.
And then the Eagles are just fun crafts that we did at the beginning of the year. And a quick video. Do you think it'll work? Let's see if the sound will work.
Oh, my computer.
That's okay.
For my math and my teacher.
Lucky for field trips. So that was just some student thoughts. And, you know, it was, I think, 3 out of the 5 kids said their teachers, which I think is great. There was no prompting or anything to that. It was just, they feel lucky for their teachers. So that's pretty powerful. There's so much more. I could go on and on and on and on and on and on and on about our sweet school. I'm very passionate about our school. So thank you. I thank all of you, community members, school staff, parents, PTA, volunteers, everyone. We appreciate you guys a lot. Questions?
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Billy.
Fun because we do this at our FRIA meeting where we share what we're doing at the buildings, just like Billy did. And what ends up happening, particularly among the 2 elementary, is like, oh, we forgot to put that in there. We did it too. We didn't too. So there's a long list, and you'll see Benita really went all out in their report today. So Elmira, can you guys see that? Because when I'm back here, I can't see that. Are you able to see it in the audience? Okay, great. It's just my eyes. I'm always asking them to make it bigger. Basically, the highlights here, there are a couple of literacy things going on. One is Iditarod, where they mimic the Iditarod, getting to Nomen back, and Sluggo, which most schools have, where Sluggo comes and does a presentation, and the kids all get a bookmark, and they have to fill up the bookmark with books that they've read, and then they turn that bookmark in, and then they get tickets to the M's games. Billy mentioned choir, K through 5. They did it, I think, in sections at the building. And one of our teachers, Erin Franklin's wife, is doing choir for the whole building. Yeah. And then talent shows coming up on the 29th. Last year, I believe there were something like 30 students who got in front of the whole school and did some sort of presentation. So that was fun. If you'll notice on all these slides, there's a lot of enrichment stuff. There is, of course, some of our curriculum, but I noticed on the community survey that was something that the community said they really wanted. They wanted a lot more enrichment for students, and I think our staff at all of the levels are doing that. So at BES, there's a ton on here, so I just bullet pointed it. I love the leprechaun drawings. So 100th day of school, that's a traditional thing that happens in elementary school. They had a very successful kinder night. I don't remember the number of students. It's less than we've had, but it was still quite a few students. At first grade, they were studying animals, oviparous animals that hatch from eggs. And there were chicks all over the building, and it was so much fun because they were hatching out of the egg right then and there with the students. And we just I couldn't take my group until this one chick popped its head out of the egg. Apparently, I did not know this. It takes hours and hours. The city girl, but I guess it takes a long time, but we happened to catch one that was just popping out of the egg. Classified week, of course, happened in our entire district, and I know everybody does a bang-up job. There are many traditions at both of Bonita and Elmira with food and fun and activities and posters, and we really play it up because our IAs, we couldn't function without our IAs, our support people. At Bonita, they also had Enriched Science. They had the Audubon people come and do a presentation on feathers, and they're coming back to talk about bird watching. And this is part of the 4th grade standard, the science adaptations standard. And then they also had, never mind, no. Okay, auctions coming up on April 5th. The whole community is invited to both schools. They have an auction and they raise money for the PTA to help do all the things that we can't always provide from our district. And so on April 5th, it's at Bonita, and I'm sure they'd love to see any of you there spending money. The students create artwork for that, and that's part of the auction. And I think you're seeing some examples there. At OBOB, Bonita's Fab Four are going to state.
Very cool.
Yes, yes. So that's pretty amazing. And they are also having a talent show afterward. Moving on to the middle, no, you're a little bit ahead, but that's okay. The middle school, we had our PE teacher, one of them, Heather Honstein, took a training that was supported both by FRIA's professional development funds and by district funds. And she is a train the trainer. It was a train the trainer model. And so now she can teach CPR and AED. And so it looks like, I can't quite see that, yeah. Basically, every student in every grade took part in some sort of health-related and safety-related training. And depending on the grade level, they did various things. And 8th graders also did the AED training. And you'll see some of the CPR, a picture there of them doing CPR. Oh, the 8th graders also did Narcan, which that surprised me, but I guess that's the world we live in. Yep. So they have training in Narcan. Also, coming up, oh yeah, so Mr. Piccolo's 7th grade science class did volcanoes and physical science. I don't know if you all remember this, but that's sort of part of like growing up and going to school is doing volcanoes. But, and I didn't even realize, I apologize for this, there's an auto class at middle school?
And who was? It'll be again, it's one of the first period exploratory classes.
It's an exploratory class, okay, and so they were focusing on the engine part of the cars, I guess. And is that's all volcanoes there. Also at middle school coming up, it's on the next slide. Parent conferences coming right up on the 20th. There'll be a leadership fundraiser, and they're doing bread braids and staff. Is it staff versus students, Olivia?
Yes,
That staff versus students basketball game coming up on April 8th, and I know they'd love anybody to watch or buy bread.
I'm playing, you can come and cheer me on.
You're playing, okay. And then moving on to the high school, we have a little video from Miss Snyder's class, Spanish class. So it's really nice to know that we taught them in kindergarten had children using toes. All the way through high school. And you notice they did the dance too. I thought that was pretty great. They also on the next slide, it's pretty amazing. So the picture on the left is art that was created based on a photograph that I'm not sure if the student took the photograph or not, or saw the photograph from Fern Ridge Reservoir and created that art, and now it's hanging in the hallway. And if you see efalconnews.org and you go there, I clicked on there, there's lots of other stuff to view too. And then, I know you had an update from Horace last time about, happenings, educational happenings from the state. And of course, this is their long session this year and a lot is going on. So here's a quick update. I know, we know about the increased funding for the state school fund, and it is now in the Ways and Means Committee. So that's where it is now, right now. And basically it's an increase from 10.2 to 11.4 billion dollars. That's a big increase. There are two related bills, the House Bill 2009 and what is it, 141? Senate Bill 141, and basically together, these are the bullet points. They're trying to enact stricter academic performance metrics. So in graduation rates, 8th grade math proficiency, and early grade attendance. So I think graduation rates is currently in place, but maybe they're gonna tweak it some way. Gary, do you know anything about that? Okay. That they want to standardize the interim assessments so that we're not just testing kids at the end and saying, yep, we did it, or no, we didn't, that we're doing it along the way so we can do something about it. So standardizing those interim assessments so we see how kids are doing and we can help them and support them to grow. And then it would be enhanced support for districts showing insufficient improvement. So basically it would be a little more directed from the state. If your school district doesn't have good metrics, that they would help support the district with expertise and best practices. And then streamlining reporting and processes within ODE. I don't know anything about that. I'm sure Michelle and Gary do, but that's part of those two House and Senate bills. And there's an update on the flexibility for the PERS, the huge increase in PERS this year. And there is something in the works. I can't really speak that well to it, but basically it would help offset the increase, and it's currently in a House committee and it already passed the Senate. So it's actually moving quite nicely through the process. And then of course there's, as you may have been reading, our Attorney General has joined 20 other states in a lawsuit with the concern over dismantling the Department of Education. So that's my report. Any questions? What I would love from the board or anybody is anything you want me to take back to the school saying, this would be nice, or this really spoke to my heart, or I remember this, or we should do more of that. That would be great. And you can also shoot me an email too. But any questions? Okay,
Thank you.
thanks.
Very thank you, Mary.
We won't skip you guys.
Starting off with sports, the girls varsity for basketball received the OSAA Academic All-State Award for placing in the top 10 of the state highest cumulative GPA. So Elmira has exceptional and very high achieving girls in sports.
Wow. Great stuff.
Then wrestling season came to an end after they competed at state in February 28 and 27 and 28. Only senior Saint Clemmer placed, and he was fourth in heavyweight.
And then this last Friday, we had the Rough and Tough Grad Night fundraiser. The seniors obviously handled business and beat the juniors and the staff teams without losing a set. The class got to celebrate with a trophy after that, I believe Mrs. Irwin or Miss Tessa helped create. The games were a bit different this year than they have been in the past. The audience wasn't allowed to buy players or buy points, but they could buy props to aid or limit each team. Some things we had were oven mitts or floaties or an actual volleyball blocker to prevent any of the tall people from being too successful. It ended up raising $3,270 for senior grad night.
Great.
Off to college prep, we had our annual junior night on March 6th. Juniors and their parents had the opportunity to attend this evening event, and they just learned and more information about doing four-year colleges, CT programs, military options, and any other thing that we could do after.
On March 8th, we hosted the OBA regionals for high school. The EHS team placed third in regionals, but they don't get to move on for any other competitions. And also our outdoor school meetings are continuing, but there aren't any real important updates at this time. They're just kind of going.
But they're going well. And then for future events, we have the annual EHS Career Fair this Wednesday. And here we are expecting to see about 31 different groups attending. So different jobs around the community or colleges. And then seniors will be completing their mock interviews during this time, which is a graduation requirement.
On Thursday, we're gonna have our 5th grade track meet. They'll be coming from both Bonita and Elmira. Yeah. And usually this meet would be much later in the year, but because of the scheduled work on the track with the bond, it was moved up to occur much sooner when we still have the track.
Which will be good because we'll get to meet some of the 5th graders before outdoor school and just get to see them.
Generally, they have the meet after outdoor school, so they've already met at outdoor school and now they're at the meet together after being together with outdoor school, but this time it'll be the opposite. So they'll kind of already know each other from the meet, hopefully, before getting put together in outdoor school.
And then we have Elmira Relays on Friday. Will be the last meet on the track before its renovations. And there will be 8 teams participating for the 49th annual Elmira Relays. And it will be the first meet of the season with other teams. That's all we have.
Thank you.
Okay,
Just now.
leaving an intermission. Just kidding, everything's been amazing. All right, well, hopefully mine aren't long. They're just a couple slides, but I wanted to have a visual for you and then just for myself to make sure I cover everything. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is our health adoption. That's what we're doing this year, and it'll start with implementation in the fall of 25. So essentially, our timeline is pretty much the same. If you sit through enough of these with me, you'll hear it because we break down the year pretty much the same. September through January, all of that fall work is reviewing the updated standards, working with Lane ESD and other districts to really tune up our professional development, make sure people are familiar with the major changes. Then winter is kind of looking at all the different curriculum, narrowing the choices, ordering samples, you know, teachers coming in, digging in, using it in their classroom, seeing what they like and don't like. February and March is pushing out our top choices and seeing if we get any input, see if anybody wants to come in and take a look, see if we have any questions. We had one not very nice survey response, and then we had some time with Lisa McCann. Came in and looked at some curriculum with me. So other than that, we didn't really have anybody reach out. March and April, usually depending on where we're at, how many curriculum there are to choose from, we'll go to board action because we are pretty set on what we want and people feel really good about it. I reached out to the team, the schools, and we feel comfortable moving forward now. If we get board approval tonight, then I'll work on getting finalized quotes, we'll get purchase, and then we make a PD plan implementation. So that's kind of the year. And then we'll do that again next year, but with a different subject area. This is just our team. Our elementary team's bigger, of course, because we'll teach it in every grade, K-5. Our middle school team was Miss Johnson, did a lot of work with Heather Honstein, one of our PE teachers. The middle school is unique because they don't have a certified health teacher. So it's done between science, PE. Heather really took the lead on it for them. And then high school, Bo Heiberger is our health teacher. So he did the work there. The next slide is our selected materials. K-5, we selected the Great Body Shop. And what's really been exciting about that is a whole bunch of Lane County schools adopted that. And it's a known product. It's not like a new curriculum. So a lot of people are excited that, okay, they've updated it. It reflects the new standards. It's easy to use. It's kind of like a mini magazine. There's 4 lessons a month. So it's super teacher friendly and super kid friendly. The middle school and the high school, what made me super happy there was that they both chose the same publisher, which means that there will be a similarity in the text and the alignment and their platforms when the kids are going in through Schoology. So it just builds that kind of constant for, you know, when you're logging in, if nothing else. So what the input looks like is, so for K-5 is, there's a lot more voices, obviously, than middle school, high school, because there's a lot more people teaching that. So K-5 is where we do the bulk of our work and making sure that all the teachers have seen it. They've had a chance to use it if they want to. They have all like demo accounts that they could go in. 6-12, they worked together and did a lot of work with the publisher rep so that they were able to go on, watch a demo, see what it looked like to run a classroom. They were able to ask for different types of alignment and scope and sequences, so they felt really good about what they had. Samples have been here at the district office since January, and we pushed out that community input survey twice and got one. And that's really all there is. Are there any questions? It's a pretty comprehensive model. I feel good about how we go through our adoption process. I'm super thankful to the teams that put in the time. They really do it, and I just try to help gather all the materials for them. So we would need board action so that I can move forward to the next step.
We have a curriculum adoption that requires board action.
I'll make a motion to adopt the health curriculum as presented.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We have 5-0.
Okay, the next one's just a couple slides too, but also just a visual that I wanted to walk people through. That's okay. Is it just to the right?
Yeah.
Okay.
My screen's different, sorry.
So I just want to kind of keeping our integrated plan at the forefront of your brains, because it's ongoing. There's constant work happening all the time, and it's a big work. So I feel like it kind of gets into the weeds a little bit, but next month we'll need to adopt our plan. So I wanted to make sure, just another, like, getting this in front of you, and over the next few weeks, I'll be pushing some information out to you just in case you have any questions. Next slide. So our integrated plan, that's through ODE, and it combines, I think we're up to 9 different programs now. It started at like 5 or 6. Those top 3, Everyday Matters, Continuous Improvement Planning, and Career Connected Learning, those are not funded. Those are just embedded, right? They want us to focus on getting kids to school every day, but they don't give us any dollars for that. Those bottom ones, we get high school success dollars, we get student investment account dollars, we get early indicator and intervention system dollars, early literacy dollars. We're in a CTE consortium, so we don't get standalone dollars for that. We use a lot of our high school success dollars for our CTE programming, but then we get supported through Laney SD. And then the federal school improvement, none of our schools are targeted schools, which is good. You don't want that. You don't want those dollars.
Yeah.
So the requirements of building this plan, this is now our 3rd round of it. You have to have an equity lens. You have to have community engagement. You have to complete needs assessments. You have to develop a 4-year plan with clear outcome strategies and activities. And they have to all be related to the longitudinal performance growth targets that we do our goal reviews on 3 times a year. You have to review your old plan. You can't just say, this is our new plan. We're just updating our plan. Essentially, we're revising it a little bit, but our plan is solid. Recommendations from state student assessment or student success act plans. So the state, I have to meet with them and they have to give it the go ahead, or they might say, hey, these goals aren't appropriate. They're too high, too low. So I have to work with the state on that. And then you have to review and update regional CTE consortia inputs. So that's an ongoing thing that we do every year. In May, I'll be going to Laney SD and doing a really It's a 4-hour dive into our CTE data where you look at the number of participants, your completers, who's only taking 1 credit, who's taking 3 credits, how many girls, how many boys, different focal groups, students with disabilities, what's their access look like. So, I mean, that's kind of an ongoing thing that's always happening. These are our 3 outcomes. We're going to keep the same outcomes. And that's something that the state has encouraged districts to do unless you have major issues. So our outcomes, and with integrated plan, each of those different funding programs have certain guidelines and requirements for funding. So you can only use them for certain types of things. I can't say I'm going to just go buy a bunch of new vehicles for the high school, or, you know. So our outcomes are tied to all of those. Outcome A is supportive and safe school environment. Outcome B is maintaining high expectations and promoting academic excellence. And outcome C is connecting and applying education to the world around them. So these are large. And then within those, not this month, but next month, I can talk to you more about, under each outcome, you have to have strategies. And then under every dollar item those are called your activities. Every activity has to be aligned to a strategy and an outcome. So it's really fun. It's good. The next slide is our estimated allocations. So early literacy, we get about $100,000. And that one, again, each of these have different rules. So early literacy, you could only use it for certain things and you can only use it in a certain way. Early indicator and intervention systems, that's not much money, but it helps. It will go towards our assessment platform. High school success, that kind of covers our CTE programming and dropout prevention, some 8th grade readiness things. And then student investment account is where the bulk of our dollars are. And that's just over 1.3 million. So some of our key investments, I'll kind of go into depth more about this, but just so that it's not all the first time you're hearing it. Our key investments with those dollars are staff, student supports, and instructional improvement. So our staff, it's really focused on counselors, CTE teachers, classroom teachers, instructional assistants, tech support. Some of our student supports that are kind of our big ticket items are free athletics. No student has to pay any supply fees, translation services, and credit recovery. Instructional improvement kind of focuses on our digital subscriptions, different professional development, AP course expansions, a good example. So to have an AP course certification, those teachers have to have training and they have to go through that training, and that costs money. And then making sure that they have the materials that they need for those. And then behavior supports are some of our other key investments. So next month, I'll give you a more in-depth presentation, and my goal is to get that to you like 2 weeks before the board meeting. So that way, that one's going to be content heavy. It'll have a link to the budget. It'll have all of our activities, all of our strategies, how we did our needs assessment. I can even link in like our 27-page application if you want to read through what we have to complete. And then I'll just do a broad overview, go through the slide deck that I'll share with you early, and then we'll need board approval for that so that I can submit it to ODE by April 30th. Yeah.
Do I have that?
How about
This slide?
this one right here?
Yeah.
No, but I can get it to you if you'd like.
Yeah.
Really, you're gonna want the other one, but I can get you this one too.
Just start me out.
Yeah, I felt like this was like an easy in, you know, hopefully all of this stuff sounds familiar.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, we'll have our superintendent.
I'll just touch base on a couple things. Usual bond update, we remain on track. Today I paid our DEQ permit application fee for $3,100. The whole county application permitting thing is gonna make me lose my hair. It's doing a good job. We have a few spring break projects coming up around the bond, some tree work, and the gate at Elmira Elementary. The little piece of our bond was to get a little more separation between the parking lot and the playground at Elmira Elementary. Both those will be happening starting next week. Everything else is on track. We're still, as the high school students mentioned, we have 2 track meets this Thursday, Friday, 5th grade and the high school, and then the track team has kind of spring break to, between them and our maintenance department, get everything out of there that we're gonna need. The Monday after spring break, that's gonna get all cordoned off, there'll be no access, anywhere, into that facility. And they'll be starting to move dirt soon, so any questions on anything bond related? Second topic I'll touch base on is bargaining. We've had 6 meetings. Next one is tomorrow morning at 7 AM. If you're interested, we'll be right in here. It's going well. We've gotten through about half of our interests. And we've kind of started to begin the process of talking about financials, but conversations have been good and we're making progress. Last thing I want to touch base on, I've alluded to it in a few of my Friday updates, but it's definitely a done deal. Those of you that use our website a lot, at the urging of Miss Marshall,
It's getting updated.
the resistance of Mr. Carpenter, because it took me several years to, now I have the ability to go in and change anything and do anything, and it doesn't take me long. Yeah, I gotta learn. So, we're gonna be paying, it's gonna be with a site tied to, Parent Square. So that those two will interface well over in the next week or two. I think we're gonna have this PO signed, and they'll be doing all the back end work between now and July 1st. And then we'll roll it out July 1st when our staff return. Principals towards the end of July, teachers towards the end of August. We'll have some training. But the bottom line is, by July should be a whole different look, be a lot more updated, a lot easier to navigate, a lot easier to search things. So you can go right now. There is really no search function. You kind of have to know what you're looking for or guess, but you can, with our new website, you'll just be able to type in a term and it shouldn't take you right to that link or what you're looking for. So that will be hopefully make it a lot easier for our parents. It does come with a cost, something where I think we're gonna use some of our SIA dollars for. Our current website's free, but it takes a lot of work on the back end from Paul to keep everything updated and linked. The new website, I wanna say it's in the $4,000 to $5,000 range each year. But hopefully will be a lot more useful for folks. Another thing it does is it gets us fully ADA compliant. There's a lot of requirements around public bodies and their websites and how they need to be ADA compliant for those that might be blind or deaf, so that they can engage with the website or even just have a visual impairment in a way that's easier. So July, that will be on there. That's all I'm doing.
Thank you.
Any questions? No? Okay. All right. So discussion item. First reading.
Policies, yeah, we got 3, 4, but 7 of them that are first readings. All sent to us by OSBA as updates or deletes or replaces. So you can look those over between now and April. And the other 2 and 9B are the ones we're looking to get adopted tonight.
Second reading.
You want a motion? You want to do that now?
Yeah, unless somebody needs to look at it.
I'd just like a clarification, please. On, underneath or second paragraph, I think it's about the 7th.
Which one?
I'm sorry, on the second one, the sick time. So GCB, DD,
Pull that up. Okay, what were you saying?
okay, it's just a quick one. It just says, let's see, line 7, last word, affinity. So, when sick time is used to care for or to deal with the death of an individual related by blood or affinity, would you tell me what that is, please?
Well, we'll give you Gary's interpretation, not an attorney, but in the new FEMLA, OFLA, paid leave Oregon language. Essentially, an employee, so this isn't a Fernwood School District thing, this is a state and federal law thing. Let's say, Lisa has lived next door to her neighbor Bree and been kind of her caretaker, and Bree fell down and hurt her hip and you need to help Bree for a day. You have the ability, if they have a familiar relationship essentially to you, someone that's closer, integral in your life, or you're connected to, folks now have the ability to use sick leave to help that person.
Okay, that's great.
Any other questions? Yeah, we'll give it to take a
So I
motion.
make motion to accept the policy updates for the two that have been proposed.
Second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we have 5-0. Okay, and then we have a list of personnel, resignation, new hires, transfers. Do we need a board on that? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. We'll take a motion on this section here.
I'll make a motion to accept the licensed employees recognition, new hires, transferred, other as proposed.
We have a second.
I will second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
I,
We have 5-0. None.
Yeah,
Just
doesn't,
coaches.
doesn't need approval, but just heads up. We'll build up our remaining spring coaches that needed to be hired.
Okay. All right. Any late items?
None from me.
Lisa, did you have anything involvement you wanted to share? Anyone?
In regards to,
Our community, you normally have community stuff.
yeah,
We're
great
busy.
month.
Okay,
Just,
break.
no, I didn't take any breaks. Did I take a break?
I don't know.
No, I will for the next 2 weeks, but no, March, it was just,
Gotcha.
I did serve as a moderator at the high school OBOB.
Sweet.
And I was pretty impressed
Yeah.
with the Siuslaw, which is a tiny district, but their team was pretty good, and I think might we might have a champion from the Region 3 North again, so.
Awesome. Anything else, guys? No. We have a lot of stuff coming up and past and present, I guess. We're all gonna be okay. Lots of activities coming up, so we can take on and be entertained. All right, so at this point, we will adjourn our regular session, right? And we'll take a 5-minute break so we can get to the exec session.
Yeah, I think say for the record, yeah, we're gonna be on for 192.66. Okay.
All right, so our executive session, this is an executive session under ORS 192.6602D regarding negotiations. And at this point, we are adjourned. We'll take
Yeah, buddy, to say.
Okay.
Oh, are you recording this?
Yep, we're ready to go. Okay, We've just ended our executive session under ORS 192.6602D regarding negotiation. And we adjourn the evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Set up.